have any at all. I've never had any idols. I've never had any. I don't read books from other coaches. I don't, because of the thing, once again, that I believe that my mind works like that a little bit, that I think there's a risk that I would be forced to think the same way they did, and that it would cramp my imagination a little bit, which is a weakness, of course. I understand that this could be handled better. I could still learn, read from other coaches, and just pick up the bits and pieces that are actually good, and then don't give a damn about the others. But I've actually never had an idol. I've never had someone that I look up to in terms of sports. I have a lot of traits and skills and the ways people handle themselves that I look up to so much. Like people in life that can handle tricky discussions, that are skilled with how they speak, that can control a room, stuff like that. I've had a lot of that. Like I'm very, very impressed by people who can handle stuff like that, like conversations. And so that's been the thing that I've been looking up to, more traits and skills in everyday life. I respect the most people that are hardworking, like people who haven't gotten stuff for free. Generally, like if I hear about someone whose life has been a struggle, and they've been able to find ways by working hard, like it was the same in school for me. I figured out pretty quickly that it was easy going for me in school, but I loved the ones who could say, I'm going to go home and study for 6 hours now. I always loved that. I love that because I didn't need to do it. And I figured that if I had needed to, I don't know what would have happened to my life. Maybe I would have found a way as well. But that's always been the big thing for me. I've always enjoyed, and I've always been very, very impressed by people who could have that determination to just go and say, I'm going to do this now. But in terms of public speaking, I don't have a single answer for you. Actually, I would have wanted to, but I don't. But generally in life, people who have struggled and have fought hard is something that I'm always going to be very impressed by. I think the proudest moment of my coaching career is it would be easy to go to one of the, for an example, the way we beat the Swedes the first time. The Swiss national team has tried 66 times in a row without actually managing, and I was the first guy who was the head coach at the time when we beat their national team for the first time. It would be easy to go there, but I'm more gonna go maybe half a year before that or something like that. I'm not going to be able to say it precisely in terms of time, but there was this feeling in the group that I knew it would happen. Like I went to my staff and said, we're going to beat them. They're way better than us on paper, but we're better prepared. Our group is so good. Our players are amazing. Like they're so good to work with. And I remember going to my staff saying, we're going to beat them. And this is not me being Hollywood-ish or dramatic or something. We're working way better than them. We're beating them anytime soon. And that was such a cool thing, because I thought our guys deserved it so hard because they'd been listening to us and trying to manage our ideas. And I just figured that, they can't stop us now. They need to do something drastic, change something drastic. Otherwise, we'll be close to beating them in every game. And they should be so much better than us. And that was a cool thing. And it mainly goes out to the staff that I have that is so good, and to the players that are able to do these things, because there's one thing, us presenting a game plan, it's a totally different thing being able to do it on court, like when you know that the other team is a really good team. But yeah, I that was the coolest thing for me when I realized that we're going to beat them. It's just a question of time now. And that was a cool thing. Yeah, I do. I have a couple of them. Like I have one when I was coaching a club team in Sweden. I'm not gonna expand extremely on this, but let's say that we had a very good season during the regular season, and we could have used the time during the regular season to work on our weaknesses a little bit better than we did. And then we ended up winning the series regular season and losing in the quarterfinals to a team that played a very destructive kind of floorball, which is totally allowed. And I'm never going to come out and say, oh, you're not supposed to play like that. You can play exactly how you want to. It's just about winning. So I'm not saying that in terms of disrespecting them or something like that. But we should have known that they would be doing this, like slowing down the game, making sure that the game turned into, instead of a 3 times 20 minutes game, it basically went down to a 20-minute game because we didn't play. The ball was just never going back and forth. It was just a very slow game. And I should have known. So I should have been stronger, and I should have been risking a couple of wins during the regular season to actually improve on our pressure, or our full court pressure. And I just didn't because I was too weak. And it was a real letdown afterwards when I realized how that series became a coin toss, literally, because nothing happening in the games, and we wouldn't risk anything, they wouldn't risk anything. And then the other thing is a little bit the same. So we had a semifinal, World Championship semifinals against the Swedes after having beaten them in this game that I talked about earlier. And it's 4-4, and it goes to sudden death and overtime, and later on penalty shootout, and we lose it. And of course, it's a huge success for us being that competitive, of course. But at the time, I remember that there were some things during the overtime when I felt, if I just, prioritized my time a little bit better during the World Championship, I could have had a couple of aces up my sleeves here. I could have prepared a couple of things with the guys that we could actually do in one of these situations. But it's so far-fetched at the time to care about a potential game going to overtime and going to penalty shootouts, that you've during a World Championship, it's very easy to say, well, we'll figure that out if we get there. Because if we get there, it means we've been brilliant, probably. We were prepared for the penalty shootout, though. We had done that a lot in advance, but there were a couple of tactical things during the overtime that I could have done to have given us a better chance of winning the game, because we're one shot away there. And there are so many things that I, in retrospect, should have done had I made my priorities a little bit better during the World Championship. Figure out that thing with honesty earlier on, instead of trying to paint pretty pictures to people, making them happy at the time, and then coming back biting in the ass later on. That was horrible, and something, maybe it's human to do it, I guess, but I would have definitely made sure that I had suffered less and they had suffered less by just being way more upfront and way more transparent and way more honest from the beginning. And the second thing is about handling the games. Like I said earlier, finding a way to be contempt about what you're actually done in terms of preparations, and then being able to go out and enjoy the games. Because in the beginning, I was way more like a player. Like, I didn't do my preparations well, and then during the games, I had to extinguish fires left and right. Oh, there's something that, I forgot to say that before the game. I need to run down to him and say, hey, when this and this happens, do that. And then we get a penalty, and we're supposed to play penalty kill. And I've forgotten to tell him about that. And the penalty kill, I had to run over to him, and it ended up with me after games. I was close to fainting a couple of times because I hadn't been drinking any water, and I had to extinguish fires all over the place because I was so bad, not very well prepared. And that would be the other thing, to just make up a plan for enjoying the games a little bit more from the beginning, instead of just freebasing as much as I did. My favorite movie is Pulp Fiction. There are a couple of different ones that will be up there, but Pulp Fiction and all the Quentin Tarantino movies, almost, except the weirdest ones. But Pulp Fiction is the one that's stuck with me all the time, and I still haven't managed to get my girlfriend to watch it. It's weird. We've probably said 20 times we should watch it, but she has this resistance built into it. Maybe it's because I like it so much. I don't know. My favorite song is My Back Pages with Bob Dylan. Cats. Easier to take care of. Oh, I'm such a hot guy. I'm sweating all over the place all the time. So I'll go cold. And I moved to North Sweden for a reason. Oh, are there any boring sports? There are probably some boring sports. Yeah, I think equestrian, I think it's called, right? When they're jumping with horses, and I just don't get the tough part of it. I understand that the animal is great, the horse is great, but the horse never gets any credit. So I think that's a boring one. I always thought it would be to, and this sounds a little bit creepy, to be able to be invisible, because there are so many situations in life where I would want to be a fly on the wall and just listen to people, like being for an example, being in the opponent's locker room during pre-game or post-game or mid-game speeches. But I've understood now, as I've gone older and as I've tried skiing in Switzerland, for example, how much I actually enjoy not extreme sports. That is way too much, but I think flying would be the thing. I enjoy the physical sensation and the how beautiful, for example, the Alps are, or something like that. I'd go flying. I'd have to do my own Frankenstein's monster animal, I think, for this to work out. I'd have to take the tail from someone and the head from someone. But if I was compared to an animal, I think there's something very, even though I chose cats earlier, I think there's something doggy about myself in terms of when I think about dogs, I think about them feeling very comfortable when others are comfortable. Like when a dog approaches you and they sense that you're in a good mood. So I think maybe it's a little bit like that. Like when I hang out with my friends, that's a big thing for me, making sure that people are, comfortable, feeling good about themselves. So I'll take a dog. I was so close to doing this, Alex. I was so close to doing this when I was like 20. Um, at the time, a couple of years before, Salvatore Schillaci, the Italian striker, had a fantastic world championship in soccer in Italy. I think must have been 90, maybe 94, no, 90. It must have been 90. And I love the name Salvatore. So I was so close to actually adding Salvatore. So I would have been David Salvatore Jansson. So I'll definitely go with Toto Schillaci and Salvatore. I think I don't want to grow up. I played Nintendo Switch with my son yesterday, and I said to my girlfriend that you need to make sure that if I once stop playing Nintendo, make sure to send me to some kind of screening, physical screening or mental screening or something, because I don't really want to grow up. But I think it's a good thing not really knowing what I am. First and foremost, thank you for doing this, and of course, bigger picture ish. Thank you for developing the fantastic app Athletes, which is so cool. But also thank you for doing this, because I think this is amazing. You've made me during this talk understand that I should use my curiosity, not only by actually watching and making my own decisions when stealing stuff, but actually being more open to choosing what to take and what not to take from other coaches. So, but I'm pretty good at this. Like when people reach out to me, I try to give them an hour of my time. Like if a coach would go to me and say, "Hey, David, I live over here. You don't know me, but is there any chance you could help me out with this and that?" I normally go, "Yeah, for sure. Let's have a Zoom meeting. Let's talk for an hour. It's no problem." So that would be what I would send out to people. Like, don't be afraid to actually approach people that have some kind of name value, have done something in terms of coaching. Me personally, I can only speak for myself, but I'm totally open to discussing this kind of stuff with others. So I think that would be the thing. Don't idolize people thinking they're better than you. That's kind of the thing. I think it's a very poisonous way of thinking. Like that's what I've done all the time. I've never put someone on a pedestal. I've never seen someone like untouchable, and that's probably maybe why I haven't been reading books about others and stuff like that. So don't do that. Just reach out to people and talk to them and be curious and try to build your own coaching Frankenstein's monster.